Hi, I'm Andy. This is Project Carhaven, and this is the only way I can fit in frame with the camera sitting where it is at the moment. Today, I'm going to be working on the Legnum again. Things on the checklist to do are clean the seat belts because they're gross, finish building the subwoofer and wire up an amp which just arrived, and then possibly start working on the engine removal. So off camera, I did fit the sub to the box. Seems to be okay. Won't know for sure until we wire up an amp and see if it works properly. Got a Class D monoblock amp, puts out a bit more power, add a bit more punch to that sub, seeing as it can handle it. The broken trim pieces from the last episode have been fitted. Most of the interior is back in, looking from here anyway. But before I do that, I'm going to get the seat belts out and get them soaking so I can hopefully get them clean with the pressure washer. Lower bolts have been removed so I can just pull the seat belt out. Hanging out of the car, like so. Shut the door on it. And that'll hold it in place for cleaning. And the same goes for all the other belts. I'll be right back. It's fairly hard to tell to demonstrate how dirty these really are. This is, almost black. It's supposed to be beige and it's kind of tacky. It's not what you want from a seatbelt. Plan of attack, spray with degreaser. Cross fingers, hope, allow it to soak, and then hit it with the pressure washer.
"20 minutes later."
Well, it's pretty safe to say that the degreaser and the pressure washer did manage to get some filth out of these. I'm really glad that won't be touching mine or anybody else's body that sits in this car from now on.
Tomorrow.
So I left the seat belts out to dry. Now they're all nice and clean. I didn't do the center seat belts, and then I held them up against the nice clean belts I've done here. And I couldn't stand that, so I took out all the center buckles and the center seat belt and cleaned those. Now they're back in and drying. Get these refitted, and then I'll be able to put the base of the rear seat back in. And I guess I wanted to talk about something a bit different for a change, and I guess a bit about myself, really. The main reason I started this channel was because I have a severe aversion to cameras. My whole life I have hated having my photo taken or being in video, and I decided that that was a me problem, and so the way I should face it is by charging at it head on and doing something like this. I mean, I like working on cars, so it was sort of something I could concentrate on more than the camera itself. Obviously, I'm not doing this full time because I'm only releasing a video every 2 weeks or so. I've mentioned a few times about not having sponsors. I'm not actively seeking any, but I also don't have the money flow like people like Matt Armstrong and Vice Grip Garage have. So for me to have this many cars is a decent financial burden, really. So I can't really afford to do fast builds or multiple cars in a month. I mean, the kind of pace I'm moving at is probably more what any ordinary backyard car repair person would expect to go at, maybe even a bit faster. But, I can't simply just bang out a car every month and then, I can't bring myself to sell them either. I start getting attached to them, and then I haven't got enough room to just store multiple amounts of cars either. So I have to make a decision at some point as to what I keep and what I sell. And I really don't want to. But unfortunately, that is the reality of it, so here we are. And I'm no expert. I'm pretty much self-taught by reading books and participating in forums. Remember forums? They're dying off, but they're an amazing resource of information, especially when other people have done stuff that you're trying to do at the time. And they may have some tips and secrets on how to get things done without going through all the headache. I just hope that what I'm doing is possibly entertaining to some of you and possibly even helpful. That'd be the best result really. If you are one of the people to see this, you're one of the very few. These videos on the Legnum typically get 300 to 500 views if I'm lucky, because no one knows what they are and no one's looking for them. So I may have another speech like this again once my audience grows, just to reiterate the fact of what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. Maybe you care, maybe you don't, but now you know. And I do read all the comments, so thank you for your support. Well, I did try to retrim this with some leather, and I put some contact adhesive on. For whatever reason, it did not stick to this at all. It peeled away and stayed stuck to the vinyl I was going to use to recover it. I've never seen that happen before. I don't have any way to repair it. It doesn't look too bad as wood grain all over anyway, so I'm just going to throw it in like this. Well, I've been storing all the stereo stuff in the back and make my life easier. I'm going to now take it out and fit it on the table. Then I'll move it back in here. So I'm going to mount the amp to the back of the sub, because the back of the sub is straight and the rear seats lean away. There's a nice little gap to hide the amp. Run the wiring in behind there. Everything should be all nice and hidden. And then using the luggage hooks, I'll strap down the sub so it doesn't fly around in the back when I'm flinging the car around corners. That's not going to happen. So this is a Precision Power D-Class amp. There's a label here which I assume is sort of see-through, and it's floating loose because I'm assuming this little panel here lights up, and so depending on which way you orient the amplifier is what side you can stick the sticker. Not that I care, I'm not going to be looking at that anyway. Place this with all the connections and terminals facing up. Little caps here come off with a hole. Place the screw through there and then cover it so no exposed screws on the amplifier itself. Not that it matters because we won't see it. Caps back on. Now before I wire in the power and ground, I need to wire the speaker to the input and output. A lot of amplifiers I've used in the past will use the positive on one channel and the negative on the other in order to bridge the amp and run full power through one channel. This one wants to pair the two positives and two negatives together to the single post of the speaker. It's a bit different, but it just means there's going to be two cables for each polarity. In order to make my life a bit easier, I'm going to do those first, and then I'll get the power and ground sorted. Amp remote wire into there. Well, I was about to film a test of the subwoofer, and before I started filming I did try it. I can't show you, the door speakers are that badly blown you can't hear anything except clipping and the cone flapping around in free air because the surrounds are probably obliterated. So before we test that, I'm going to have to redo all the door speakers first. Yep, so it appears there's little caps and screws behind them, and then probably clips holding the rest of the door card on. That one's a bit loose. Someone's been in here before. Unscrew in there. That should then pop out, lift out. One in the door cup. Didn't lose that, that's cool. I think I'm going to need a pry tool to get this door handle and master window switch out. There we go. Well, that's quite faded, so I might try and do something about that, because I'm not going to buy a whole replacement master switch. I did buy some of the smaller switches. They're just badly sun faded. The cup's okay. Some of the other cups are really trashed. I do have new ones of those. I might as well go through and do all of that while I'm in here. Let's see if this just pries off. Oh yeah. Shuffle and up, and yep. Ugh. Ugh. A little warning light bulb holder. The other door doesn't have a light. I'm assuming this is floating around inside the door card. Yet another thing to take care of. Yeah, that speaker is 100% cooked. It does have a silk covering over the front of the speaker to help protect it. Yeah, so you shouldn't be able to see sunlight through there. There should be a surround attaching it to the frame. I've quickly taken the cover off the tweeter. That seems to be fine. It's mounted to the factory bracket. I don't think there's a need to muck around with that. I'm just going to replace the main speaker in the front doors. The rears are just main speakers without a separate tweeter, so I'll just switch that stuff out and see how we go. For the fronts, I did order some Hertz splits. Yeah, okay. So these speakers don't line up with the plastic frame. It's a custom speaker from factory, but there is enough meat in this frame. I can just jam some screws in there and it should hold on fine. It's just a matter of wiring it to the correct polarity. Fortunately, the factory speaker is labelled. So I do know that with this T connector, the top of the T is positive and the straight down piece is the negative. Wire it up so it's correct, jam the speaker in, and move on to the others. And while the door card's off, I will do a little bit of cleaning in here just because I have to. I can't just leave that and know that it's in there. So I went ahead and I cut off the plug end and crimped on a new connector for the negative. The positive is the correct width for the speaker. So now it's just a matter of plugging in the speaker, screwing it into this bracket, and then repeating it again another 3 times so all the doors are done. And I'm going to leave this door card off. 1, because I haven't cleaned here yet. 2, because I probably need some rear access here to do something about all the rust in the bottom of this driver's side door. Obviously, I'm going to jump into that as soon as I can, because if you've seen my previous videos on the Mercedes and the Celica, you'll know that bodywork is my most favourite thing to do. Nope, it isn't. It looks like the rear doors only have 2 of the screws. 1 for the door handle cup. There we come. Try with this little hooking pick tool to get the screw cover out of the door handle cup. That worked. So yeah, the door handle cup is faded and trashed and awful, which is why I've got 3 spares. I'm going to change these over while I'm in here. These rear switches aren't too bad. It's just a matter of figuring out how to get it out. So based on the new switch cover, I'm going to say it's probably mounted with screws onto the door card. So I'll try removing this once I get the door card off of the door. the vapor barrier and butyl's a bit shot, so that's probably going to allow moisture to get into the car. I'll probably take these off, add some new butyl and some plastic like I did with Celica to reseal these door cards while I'm in here. Another speaker with the surround completely obliterated. And I didn't check before I looked online. It just said that all the speakers were 6.5 inch, so that's what I ordered. And thankfully, they all do fit. Obviously the mounting holes don't line up with the bracket, but like I did with the front one, I'll just make new holes, but these will work. So while I've got all the door cards off, I'm gonna clean all the filth from the back sides. Once again, you can't see it, but I'm gonna sleep better knowing that it's actually clean. That was a new clean microfiber. Use the vinyl dye on the switch plates. There's a brand new door cup. Colour match wise, they're not really too far off. There's a slight difference, but they're on opposite sides of the car. You're not going to notice. Cover plate in first.
Later.
So those door cards all reassembled except for the main switch in this one, which I'll do once the card's fitted. But before I fit those cards, I needed to sort out the vapor barriers. Now the butyl rubber's missing off the lower edges of most of these, and the vapor barrier is completely missing from the passenger door. You may think it's just a sheet of plastic. It's not that important, but the fact is, if any water gets past those weather seals, it will drain out the bottom of the door. If the vapor barrier is not in place, the water can get into the cabin through these gaps. That's how you get wet floors. You'd be wondering, why is my car leaking? My door seals look fine. It could well be because your vapor barrier has come away from the door or has been taken out by a previous owner. As with other cars, I've got this butyl rubber on a roll. Just a matter of peeling this off, putting it in place to re-stick this down, and that'll be fixed. Press the butyl onto the door. Just lightly pressing it in place for the moment. Really got to press this into place, flatten it out, squish it. Now the vapor barrier is fixed. You can put the door card back on. Here's the difference between the old door cup and the replacement. You can kind of see why I need to replace that. It's gross. And I even have replacement little screw covers for inside the door cup so they can go as well. So case in point, I did have a wet floor on the passenger footwell, no vapor barrier to be seen at all. So what I'm going to do is lay a strip of butyl rubber around the outer edge. I'm going to take the door handle off and the cup holder bracket off, get the plastic behind that so it's still one complete piece without too many gaps. The only gap it will need is a small hole for the window switch connector. That way it'll be fully sealed, no more leak in the passenger footwell, hope. 70 micron thick builder's plastic, which is about the same thickness as the door card plastic. Thick enough to do the job so it's not too flimsy, thin enough it's still quite flexible. Way more than we need, that's fine. That's got that on. All right. Sure, everything's going to line up. The driver's door is the only one that actually has the vapor barrier still intact, but the bracket for the door cup is also rusty on this side, so before I put it all back together, I'm going to go and convert the rust and paint this one too. It probably doesn't matter, but it's just one of those things that's going to eat me up inside if I know it's sitting in there and still looking like this.
Later.
A little bit later, that bracket's no longer rusty and painted. Refit that and then I can get the door card on. I just put that bulb in with the power on because they are polarity specific. Being LEDs, they'll only work one way, so just making sure it's going to work before I put that cover back on. Now just got to verify that all that work was actually worth it and the speakers work. That'd be really nice. But first, that's nice. Nice. Well, while I'm in here, one last common fault of the Legnum seems to be that the clock on the dash tends to die, probably because it's right near the windshield and gets absolutely cooked. There's a good chance that the solder joints are dry, so what I'm going to do is take that out and attempt to fix it. And if I can't, they do make gauges that'll actually fit in that pocket, so it'll still be useful, but I'd rather just fix the clock because it's probably the easiest and cheapest thing to do. I did already manage to pry it up. Now, it's locked in there, right? There's 4 lugs holding it in, pointing straight down. You have to use a fair bit of force to get it up. It feels almost like it's going to break. That's how much force is required if it hasn't been removed before. It'll suddenly give way and pop up like this. Now I'm going to unplug it, open it up and check all the solder joints and see what they look like. Looks like it's all sort of held together with clips. That's also just broken. Isn't that nice? I'll fix that. Yeah, they can live there for now. It's a little bit dirty. I might be able to give that a polish while it's off. There we go. Some clips there. It's a little bit warped at the top here. I'm going to see if I can slide this board out and get a good look at it. Yeah, it does just slide out. So it's pretty hard to tell without a microscope, and I don't see so good. A couple of the pins on the board were bent, and it's possible that those joins are weakened. Also, the main power supply socket on the board have the largest joints. They look like they have maybe some separation around those pins. So I'm going to flow those 6 rather than doing the whole board, and then see if that manages to fix it. If not, I might have to run the soldering iron over every single joint to reflow it to bring back a good connection again. Hopefully by doing those 6 points is going to be enough to fix it and save me a bunch of time. So I've just plugged it in bare, just like that, without the cover. Look, oh, clock fixed. All right, so one of those 6 points that I soldered was the issue. They now have good connection and the clock works. Reassemble and reinstall. Well, I think it is time. I've run out of things to do on the interior for now, I think. So it means it's time to start pulling the engine out, which means I've got to push this back to give myself enough room to move the engine stand and engine crane into here. And then I've got to pull off the bonnet to give myself more access, start pulling off all the ancillaries that are in the way, and roll on from there. It's happening, finally. That engine coming out. Now that the outdoor table is completely empty of stuff, I'll go and fill it up again with all the stuff out of here. Lots more room for activities. So I've only just started, but I have found some treasures. That's rat bait, and that's rat turds. I'm going to try and vacuum out what I can get to before I progress any further. I have a feeling I'm going to be doing that fairly often. That's a fun way to start this job. How rocks this size got in there, I have no idea. Battery tray will be in the way. That's fine, whatever. Get that out of here. Looks like it might just slide off. Yep, perfect. Well, I feel like I'm going to have a bit more room to breathe if I get the radiator out. So I may as well do a complete fluids drain, get the coolant and the oil and probably the trans fluid out. Do all that in one hit while I have the car in the air. Yeah, no, that's not. Where's the rest? Problem. Yes, problem. And now this is likely to just shoot into my face because I'm lucky like that. Might just let it drain like that. So once I got the radiator out, I went to use the garden hose to clean it and it's destroyed. This is just crumbling away. It feels like salt. It's not great. That's not what you want your radiator to do. I do have a spare, but it's for a manual, so it doesn't have the ports for the trans cooler. That means I can't really use that, so I've either got to figure out a solution for a trans cooler or try and find another radiator. It's making metallic confetti everywhere. And the more I'm looking at this, the more I'm coming to the realization that I'm not going to be able to get this engine and trans out together through the top. I'm probably going to have to try and lower it down onto the ground, remove the trans down there. See, if I had a 2-post lift, I'd be able to get this out much easier, but I don't have that, so I'll battle through and do what I can. Now I'm going to work on this intake pipe work so I can access more of the wiring. Blow off pipe hose and all. Put the bolt back so I don't lose track of where it lives. Clean as you go. So I'm still picking away at little stuff, things like, I think next I'm going to take off the aircon compressor because I'm going to leave that in the engine bay, which means I've got to loosen off the belt. Same for the alternator, I've got to loosen that to get that belt off first because it sits in front. There's a couple of little pipes and stuff before I think about getting into the tough stuff like getting the engine and gearbox separated. Barely be able to see it, but there's a third bolt on the back side. Well, I think I'm about to make a huge mess, but what I'm going to try and do is get the power steering pump and its lines out, which means I'm going to take the reservoir with it. I was going to use a syringe to draw that out, but it's not making a good seal. That means I get to play my favourite game, drinking the dangerous red cordial. The trick is to not actually get it in your mouth. Now, I am an expert, so don't try this at home. Might just leave that to drain for a bit. Well, the deeper I dive, the more I find the engine mounts, or these ones are called roll stoppers, appear to be completely destroyed. So they're likely all no good. Now I have to find a set of engine mounts too. You get the wiring off the starter and then get the starter out. Yuck. So the other bolt was coming through from the other side. Now I've got it out, that obviously needs clean. Well, this job got a lot more involved. I have to retain the wiring harness because the other engine has a manual harness and this requires an automatic one. There's a few different plugs that I need to retain, and in order to get the alternator wiring out, it also has the injectors for the rear bank. The only way to get to that is to remove the inlet manifold, which means we're going to have to remove the inlet manifold again off of the other engine in order to fit that. It's just one step forward and 7 back. I'll get there eventually, but it's going to take some time. All the conduit's broken down as well, so I'll have to re-insulate all this cabling. Add it to the list. Oh. Well, I'm not afraid to admit that this kind of kicked my butt today and I've had enough. The wiring loom's all out of the way. I have some parts to order because all the engine mounts are trashed. I still need to get the axles out of the transmission and then figure out if I can drop the transmission and transfer case as one, whether I have to separate them. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one, where hopefully this will be out.